A very warm welcome back to the Football Martin channel. It's the Fans Forum this Thursday evening. It's a regular show now, each Thursday at 8 p.m. And I've got some special guests joining me very, very shortly. But before I do bring in my guests, a massive shout out to everybody that's subscribed to the channel and have been liking the videos and commenting. Your support means the absolute world to me. So thank you very much for getting involved in the conversation. And tonight is all about the Fans Forum. It's all about bringing in the fans and getting to the heartbeat of the Southampton fan base. Welcoming on the show tonight, I've got Adam Boyce, who's joining me. Adam, welcome along to the show, my friend.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Yeah, it's good to have you. Ben Towers is here once again as well. Ben, welcome to the Fans Forum.
Thanks, Martin. Good to be here.
And we've got Ben Parker joining us this evening as well. Ben, thank you very much for joining us as well. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, good to be back with another show. Great to be back with another show. I love putting these on, and everyone is enjoying watching them, which is the beauty as well. There's quite a bit to talk about tonight. Coming up in tonight's show, Man City reflection. We will reflect upon the Man City draw. Saints finally got that point they needed to make it to 12 points. We'll talk about the reaction to that, and was it a little bit over the top? Premier League away days come to an end this weekend because Southampton head to Everton to Goodison Park for the final ever men's first team game at Goodison Park. And we're going to talk to the guys about their favourite all-time Premier League away day. I want you guys to get involved in that as well. Stadium memories. It's emotional moving from a football ground, and we're going to reflect upon Saints moving from the Dell to St Mary's. Everton are just about to move from Goodison to Bramley-Moore Docks, so we can give the Everton fans a little bit of an insight into what it's like moving grounds. Managerial chat. Will Steele has emerged as a front runner. We'll cover that as well. He's one of the favourites now. He's come out of nowhere the last couple of days, so his name has been linked. And we'll finish off with some quick fire questions as well. Right, lads, let's get into the show. First up, I want to talk about the performance against Man City at the weekend. Adam, I'll start with you. Were you surprised to see us pick up anything against Manchester City at the weekend?
Yeah, very surprised. It says a lot that we can't beat a Leicester team who are in just as bad form as we are going into that game. And yet Man City come to town. You know, their front line is probably worth more than our entire back four and goalkeeper combined. And yet they can't break us down. So pleasantly surprised, obviously relieved more than anything, because that point means that we now are at 12 whole points for the season.
Yeah.
And no longer on the dreaded 11. But yeah, definitely unexpected. I think no Southampton fan thought we had a hope in hell's chance of getting a point that day, least of all through a clean sheet. So it's a positive.
Clean sheet, yeah.
It's a nice surprise, right? So definitely unexpected, but pleasantly surprised.
Ben Parker, you won't be surprised at how the manager set up yesterday. We spoke about it a bit, and you've spoken about the way that he plays football is very negative, isn't he? You wouldn't have been surprised at the way he set up at the weekend. Low block, wanted to get every single Southampton player behind the ball, didn't he? Didn't surprise you in any way or form, did it?
No, not at all. It's kind of the standard, isn't it, when we play the big guys? I think even more so now as our attacking sort of force is nowhere to be seen. We lack in that area so much. So I think it was pretty obvious how we were going to set up against Man City. But it was a pretty good result. The defending side of things was excellent. I'm going to put a little bit of a negative spin on it, and I know people hate me for it, but I'm not that kind of. I like to see us go out and try and win. I know we had to get that point, and I get it, and it was a good result. So I'll let them off for this one. But for me now, going into the next couple of games, we've got absolutely nothing to lose. We should have a little go at it. But I kind of suspect we will probably still be quite ultra defensive.
Yeah, I think you're right. Ben Towers, it was a good well-earned point. Players putting bodies on the line. We've not really seen that all season. Were you surprised at the real work rate that the players put in at the weekend compared to what we've seen in recent weeks?
I was actually, yeah. I think I predicted a 5-0 loss actually, so I got it well wrong. Do not ask me to pick your lottery numbers next week because I'll probably muck that up as well. But yeah, I think they had a game plan. They were well drilled, and probably just as the game went on, they just gained more confidence that they could probably pull that off. I think a lot of people in the media have said that we didn't play very well, that we didn't get out to win. But you got to remember, a result isn't always 3 points. A result is picking up something from the game, and that's what we always set out to do. So, yeah, I was very, very impressed.
Yeah, I was pleased to get it over the line. I didn't overly celebrate at the end of it. I've got to be honest. I still feel quite low about relegation, so I found it really hard to get carried away with it. And I said that in my final word show on Monday, and an instant reaction as well. I was chuffed to bits to get it over the line, but you know we're still going down as the second worst team ever. Adam, a lot of radio shows were speaking about it afterwards. One of those being BBC Radio 606. With Chris Sutton, who's very outspoken, gets a lot of clicks on his shows. He went out and called it amateur hour, and I kind of get a little bit of where he's coming from. Do you think it was amateur hour when he was talking about the players over celebrating and the club's tweet? Did you think it was a little bit of an amateur hour?
He doesn't really like us, does he, Chris Sutton? No. Listen, I get where he's coming from. The club coming out and tweeting some of the stuff they've tweeted, I'm not a massive fan of that. Some of it's quite funny at first, but let's not take away from the fact that you're the second worst team in Premier League history this season. Like, that's not. It's like you might not be the worst, but like, you know what I mean. So I get where he's coming from. As far as the overreactions go, yeah, totally. From some fans and players, I will say. But I think, honestly, it's just all that pent-up sort of frustration and energy just coming out all at once. And because of that, some people have looked quite silly on the back of that result at the weekend. But, I see where he's coming from. I think some things could have been handled a lot more better from the club and the players.
Yeah, I was intrigued by the tweet, Ben. Your thoughts, Ben Parker, on that tweet that was put out by the club after the game? It went along the lines as referring to Derby County. Sorry, we got your hopes up, Derby County. Did you think it was? Did you find it funny, or did you find it like there's nothing to laugh about here? There's nothing funny in the situation that we find ourselves in. It
isn't. But to be honest, I've been so demoralised for I don't know how long now that. It's like water off a duck's back. It does annoy me, some of the professional commentators that have come out, ex-professional footballers, and the comments they've said. At the end of the day, we had a great result against one of the top sides in the league, and we've gone past that 11 points, which we needed. Nobody wants that mark against their name, so to speak. So I think we were well within our rights because of the crap season that we've had to celebrate that as fans. I'm not sure about the players jumping for joy, to be honest. I think they could have maybe done that a little bit more subtly. But for me, I think the fans had total right to jump and, be happy about that result. The tweet, the message from the club, they've been doing that all season for me, and I don't really pay any attention to it, to be honest, because they do it time and time again. They need somebody else in that marketing area to buck their ideas up, I think.
Yeah, Ben, how did you see the reactions afterwards? There was loads of reactions, not just from our club fans, but some big reaction from a player as well. Ruben Diaz, he had a lot to say, didn't he, after the game? Was very outspoken. We've all heard his interview numerous times. What were your thoughts on Diaz's comments about Southampton, how we didn't set up to play, that we were, we ruined the game basically by not watering the pitch and putting every single man that we had in the 18-yard box?
I found it hilarious. If I'm honest, I think he's just quite bitter. I think they probably went into the game thinking it was an easy 3 points and they needed those to continue their run to get into Champions League spots. And I just think they ran out of ideas. They couldn't break us down, and they weren't expecting as much fight as we gave. And I think it's great. I think it's great. Just to comment on the reaction after the game, I think the players, they feed off the crowd a lot, and I think there's just a massive amount of relief out of the stadium. And I think that's probably why the players did sort of, give it more than they probably should. I mean, at the end of the day, it's still only a draw, and we've had a shocking season. But I think they feed off the crowd, and we were easily relieved. So that's my feeling.
Yeah, no, you make a good point. Robert's in the chat. He said Sutton defending his mate savage. Derby, that was his gripe. Boo-hoo. No, I agree. I think with Savage being in the studio with him, I think that is a very good point. Trish Sykes is in the live as well. She went on to say that Diaz needs to give his head a wobble. Bitter or what? Very true. You're very entitled, I thought, from a fellow, from a player of a top club actually. To come out and criticise the way a smaller club had tried to go about trying to get a point on. He's pretty out of touch, I thought, on the game and sort of on Southampton's position in the division. I thought it was just bang out of order, really pathetic, made himself look a little bit of an idiot. Actually, talking about Man City, I should touch upon it with all of you, actually. I'll get everyone's thoughts on it. FA Cup final this weekend. It's weird, isn't it, to see an FA Cup final, Man City in that against Palace, before a Premier League season's even finished. I find it bizarre. I think it should be when the season's finished, in my opinion. I don't think it should be now. Absolute ridiculous from the FA. I don't know why they've done that. But how do you think, boys, I'll start with you first, Adam. Do you think City will win that, or do you think Palace have a really good chance of beating them? Love to get your thoughts on that.
I think Palace have got a really good chance of beating them. Palace are one of those teams who always tend to put a performance in against City, no matter where they are in the league. I think back to might have been Boxing Day 4 years ago or something. I think they beat him at the Etihad on Boxing Day, and that was that was like amazing. Man City at the top of the league, miles away at that point. And over the years, you've seen it. They always have a performance in them against Man City, and so on paper it's ginormous City versus smaller Palace. But I think if there was a time for anyone to beat City in a final, it would be this season. This is the worst Man City team we've seen in a long, long time. And so, I think Palace have got every right. I think they've got a good chance of beating them. That being said, I do think Man City will win because it's very hard to imagine Man City going a season without any sort of trophy. I don't know if you guys agree, but yeah.
Give me a score prediction, Adam. What's the score prediction? I want everyone that's watching live. There's 55 watching live. Get your score predictions in for the FA Cup this weekend. Love to get everyone's thoughts on it. Boise, score prediction?
I'll go 2-1 Man City. They'll nick it in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to go with an upset. I'm going to go with Palace to win it 2-1. So I'm going to go against you on that one. Adam Parker, what's your thoughts on the FA Cup this weekend? You want to see the underdog win, don't we?
Yeah, I think Palace, the back end of the season, certainly half the season, have been phenomenal. They've got a great squad. I think I'm going to go with the upset as well, to be honest. I think, and it'll be... I'm going to go with 3-1 to Palace, which I'm surprised I'm saying that, but I have been really impressed with them.
Yeah, it would be nice to see
Mateta up front is an absolute beast.
Yeah, he is a good player, isn't he? He's a really good player, Mateta. Well, he caused us a few problems, didn't we? Certainly at Selhurst, when I went to Selhurst and watched us play there, he battered us that day.
Yeah.
So you're going to watch the cup final?
Yeah.
Thoughts of it being before the Premier League season's finished as well, Ben Parker? It's weird, isn't it? It should be at the end of the season, shouldn't it?
Again, but there's lots of over the years they've changed the rules on certain aspects. I mean, even for me, just the final alone should be played. Finals at Wembley, but we see quarters, semis, or whatever being played at Wembley. I don't agree with that. I don't know about anyone else, but
yeah, I don't think they should be there at all. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's one of those things you kind of expect it to be at the end of the season. It's like tradition, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they keep. I guess it's to do with fixtures, fixture build up and stuff. So, but yeah, it's a shame. It's like mucking around with the traditions, which I don't really like, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm a very much traditionalist when it comes to FA Cup finals and big games. Ben Towers, your thoughts on the FA Cup at the weekend before we come back to our Saints chat. Do you think Palace can cause a big upset this weekend?
I really do. I think their front line is as good as any other in the Premier League at the minute. They're really on song. They've been hitting goals in for fun over the last few weeks. And Mateta, as Ben said, he's an absolute beast. I think, when you look at the stature of him and his attributes, I hope that was what Tall Paul would end up being like. But obviously they're worlds apart. But I think
Arteta's a proper player.
So good. I dare to say it. I mean, I don't know if you know how Palace fans feel about everything, but they're going to struggle to keep hold of him. I think they bought him relatively cheap, and they'll sell him very, very high, I think. But when you talk about the FA Cup not being at the end of the season, I think it's crazy. I can only think that it might be just a collection of fixtures with the playoff finals. They're trying to make it all work out. The Wembley is going to be well used over the coming weeks. But, you know, if they're doing that, then God knows, you might see the Community Shield in January, which will be a disaster as well. But, yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah, we were talking about the playoffs as well today, because it's definitely worth having a chat about the playoffs, because that's just been the last couple of days, and it really enjoyed watching the bit of Championship, getting ready for what we're going to go back into next season. It's pretty much, Ben Towers, is it pretty much a year ago Friday since the semi-final against West Bromwich Albion? It's about a year ago tomorrow? Sure it is.
I think so. Sorry, did you say we're back in the Championship next year?
Yeah.
It just brings up memories. I was watching it, actually. I was watching the highlights again yesterday because it was all coming up on YouTube, and it was just those scenes of all the flares and the bus being held up by fans outside the stadium. Stunning. Absolutely amazing. I'm looking forward to next season, hoping that we actually rebuild as we're supposed to this summer, and we actually give it a good go, and we're one of the teams that are expected to go up. But I can't believe it was a year ago. It's gone so quick.
Yeah, no, it's just flown by. Just go back to the FA Cup chat. The Saints Network, either Ashley or Liam, one of the guys is in. Had the pleasure of meeting Ashley at the weekend. Make sure you go get Saints Network a follow. They're in the chat below. 2003 said was great going to Villa Park for the semi, then to Cardiff for the final. Makes the final a better day. I totally agree. That it's actually one of my favourite ever away days. Watford in the FA Cup at Villa Park was absolutely magical. I don't know if Ben or Ben, whether you were there for that game. Pretty magical, wasn't it? Adam, was it before your time?
Yes, before my time, just a little bit.
Yeah, Adam's the youngest out of all of us by some way, but it was a.
Are you sure about
that? Yeah, there's loads of people joining the chat. More people getting involved. Keep your comments coming. Keep the conversation coming, and we will get you guys involved as we go along in tonight's fan forum on the Football Martin channel. If you're not following or subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. Had a really nice comment a minute ago, guys, and somebody said how they're enjoying the content. Only just come across the Football Martin channel and said they were loving the fans forum and was learning loads along the way as well. So thank you very much for all your kind comments. Right, it's Everton away this weekend. It's a massive weekend for them. It's our last game away in the Premier League for now. How long it will be till we have another Premier League away game, we've got no idea. But I wanted to touch upon that big moment of moving grounds and how big that is. I think Ben Parker, I'll come to you first. Remembering the Dell and that move from the Dell to St Mary's and how difficult that transition was. Because someone said to me the other day in an interview, I think it was with TalkSport yesterday, we were talking about that moment you move and you feel like it's not your club anymore. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird feeling, isn't it?
It's so bizarre when you're used to your stadium. You've been at a stadium like the Dell for so many years, and as a young kid myself, going there and watching football, it's a weird feeling because the Dell, means so much to a lot of fans and was amazing. But at the same time, when you're progressing as a club and you're moving to a bigger, better stadium, you're kind of torn because you've got that feeling of we're moving on to bigger things, but also we're leaving by the ground that's done us so well for so many years. The sad thing was, I think I was at the home game at the new stadium. I think it was Chelsea from memory. And we lost that game. And I think we lost quite a few to start with. So it definitely seemed to have an effect on certainly the players, I imagine all the staff and the fans as well. It was, I can't remember how many games it was, but it was a few that before we got that win eventually. I don't know if you can remember.
Wasn't that down to the
while, didn't it?
Wasn't that down to all the Portsmouth shirts that have been buried under the centre circle?
Oh, that's a crock, Ben. No way.
Yeah, it was weird. I remember it really, really well. I spent a lot of time at the Dell as a kid, and I absolutely loved it. I loved going there, and
Yeah.
I found it was special. I thought the atmosphere was just so unique, and it was worth points to us. It kept us in the division probably a few times, along with
100%.
with that and Matt. And then all of a sudden, like you moved to a new ground, and it just didn't feel like home anymore. And I don't even now, all these years on, I don't think I've ever really grown to love St Mary's. I don't know about you, Ben Towles. I don't know if you feel the same. I've never felt that connection with the stadium that we're in now as the Dell. It's just there's just something about it.
Yeah, the Dell was special. I remember going there as a 16-year-old, and it was different to any other ground. You were so close. You were close to the players. You felt like you could be hit by a ball any second, and it was exciting. And like you say about St Mary's, there's so many grounds. Leicester's, for instance, they all look the same. They're all manufactured the same, and there's a lack of identity. I think they've done their best by doing the red and white windows around the top of the stadium to make it a bit more personable. But it's manufactured, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I remember when we went there, I felt we were big time. I felt we'd arrived. Still only 32,000, but at the time it was double the size of what we were used to, and it felt like we were going somewhere. It really did.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there, Ben. So it's almost like these grounds are very generic now. We'll take away the Tottenhams and some of the bigger clubs where they've got these absolutely world-class stadia, but certainly the Leicesters, the Southamptons, I'm pretty sure the same company built both stadiums. But the old style stadiums. Funny enough, I was actually at Aldershot's ground a couple of days ago. My daughter was playing in a cup final there, which they won. So well done, Joe. Sorry, Libby. And also, funny enough, she's had a trial with Southampton today. So I need to speak to her. Hopefully, she's
in the comments. She's actually in the comments right now. Yeah.
There we go.
She said she had a trial. So yeah, good
Make
luck,
sure
Libby.
you follow the right name.
Yeah. I'm gonna get told off for that one. But the stadiums, the old stadiums, Aldershots. I mean, it was falling apart. But there was something about it, and the Dell was all right. It wasn't falling apart, but it was. It was an eclectic taste, let's say, but it was ours, wasn't it? It was the Southampton's fans' home. So, it's sad when you go and you miss those sort of stadiums. But, we had to move to a bigger stadium. What were we, 15,000?
Yeah,
15,000, I think.
15,600-ish, wasn't it?
And you just, in the Premiership, but even in the Championship, you've got to have more numbers than that. It's just not enough. I mean, Bournemouth, it shocked me. I didn't realise how small their ground is. I think they're on around that sort of 15,000, 16,000 mark, which in this day and age is.
But I guess nowadays there's more money from the TV rights and everything that there was back in the day. It was just a turn of the 2000s, wasn't it, that we moved? So it was needed, but that's how Bournemouth are surviving, because the bulk of their money comes from Sky and the like, doesn't it? I guess.
Yeah, and that revenue. Adam, Everton made a big decision this week because we all thought it was going to be the last ever game played at Goodison Park at the weekend. They're actually going to keep it for the women's team, and the women's team are going to go and play at Goodison. They're going to keep it. Massive decision by Everton to do that. Do you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to do great things for the women's game, to be fair, because you're leaving such an iconic stadium. Anfield is great. Goodison Park, I think, is just as iconic in its own right as Anfield and other big stadiums. And it's a big statement to leave that to the women's game. And hopefully moving forward, because as we've said previously, teams are always thinking about moving and upgrading and getting themselves a nice fishbowl stadium. Everyone will be leaving their iconic old school stadiums near enough at one point. And hopefully this decision will kind of think, let's not knock this stadium down. Let's not knock this history down. We've got all these great memories from. Let's actually pass those memories on to the women's team, and then they can make their own memories there. And as that game continues to grow, I think it's I think it's a bold decision. I think it's not going to agree with everybody, but I think I can only really see it being a positive, because it's just going to help the women's game a lot more, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the women's game's growing all the time as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know, actually, because obviously if that hadn't have happened and they would have sold that ground maybe to residential developers, that money would have been ploughed back in for PSR rules. So surely they're losing out, aren't they, by not reinvesting or selling that ground? That's what I would have thought.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Really interesting. There's got to be a reason behind it. I kind of wondered, and I might be totally wrong in saying it. Didn't they have a few issues with some of their test events that they had, because they've been having test events there with like crowd control, whether they've got it just for the minute, if worse comes to worse and they have more issues, that they've got Goodison to fall back onto just during that transition. I don't know. I might be totally wrong in saying that.
It's an interesting one.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, because I think a lot of people, they reckon, had it planned what tools they needed to take at the weekend to get their seats out. They reckon they knew exactly what they needed. So it will be interesting to see what happens on the last game at Goodison Park, whether there's a mass pitch invasion or whatever it is. We'll come on to pitch invasions a bit a minute ago, because there's an interesting email from the club today. But it will be interesting at the weekend. If any of you guys been to Goodison, Adam, you been?
No, but I always really wanted to go, and I'm gutted I'll never get the chance to.
Yeah, I've never been as well. Ben Parker, you been to Goodison?
I haven't, no.
And Ben Towers, you've not neither. So
I'm afraid it's a clean sweep here, Martin.
So all four of us have not been. I'm hoping to go the weekend if I can get a ticket. I don't have one at the moment, but I'd like to go, because I'd like to kind of go and create some content on it if I can. But it is being really tough to get a ticket, and people don't want to transfer them because it's difficult, because some people are picking tickets up from the ground and there's ID involved. It's a bit of a mission. Talking about it being our last Premier League away game, I'll start with you, Ben Towers. Do you have an away game that you've been to or watched, preferably an away game you've been to in the Premier League that you're always remember that you really enjoyed?
There was one in particular. I was with Ben, actually.
I was going to say
we went to Villa, and it was a number of years ago. But the banter in the crowd was amazing, and I remember it was the days when Dean Richards scored the winner. It was a 1-0 win, and we had Stuart Ripley playing. So yeah, going back quite a few years, but the bants in the ground and the fact that we got a win, and it was a long journey. Well, longish.
I'm pretty sure it was Sheffield Wednesday.
No, I've never been there. Never been there. It was Aston Villa.
Sure it was.
I'm telling you now.
Okay, I'm going to check that
I
one.
remember your daughter's name, so I think I'll remember this one. Thank you very much. But yeah, it was brilliant. Really good day. Really good day.
Yeah. For you, Ben Parker, your standout Premier League away game that you've been to? Anything that
Well,
really
funny enough,
stands out for you?
I'm going to cheat here, because it's not strictly Premier League game. It was a cup game, but obviously against Portsmouth 4-0.
Nice.
Yeah, so that I'm going to cheat on that one. I know it was a cup game, but
just that standout game, yeah.
That was phenomenal. Danny Ings.
Oh,
quality.
I love Danny Ings.
The
rumour mill. We're talking about Danny Ings. That rumour mill started again, by the way. That rumour mill's going every time we get to a transfer window. It's going again now, because they're releasing in West Ham United. You guarantee he'll be linked with us for the next God knows how many weeks.
Probably, but he's had. If you believe what you read, he's had plenty of opportunities to come back. So I think that ship has sailed for me personally.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Adam, favourite away game for you? Anything in the Prem that really stands out for you that you've been to?
So I'll go for my first ever Southampton away game, actually, which I done in 2017. I haven't been to loads of away games. I never went, because I don't live in Southampton, so I never went enough to warrant getting like the priority for the away tickets and stuff. But I went to Crystal Palace away in 2017, because that's actually kind of local for me where I live. And I went with my dad, and we won the game 1-0. Stephen Davis scored, one of my favourite players.
Oh, yeah, I remember the goal, yeah.
It was a goal like 6 or 7 minutes. So then it was 83 minutes of just soaking up pressure, nail-biting action. But the thing that really stands out to me about this away game wasn't actually the result, but it was the performance of Mario Lemina on the day. He just casually dropped one of the greatest performances I've ever seen in a Southampton shirt live. Like, I'm talking, he started off with the back four, then just carrying the ball up the pitch so confidently. I think he actually got man of the match that day. And honestly, it was, considering we've seen the likes of Mane, Van Dijk, Pella, and it was Lemina that dropped the best performance for me I've ever seen. That will always stick with me. And it being my first away day, and it was great limbs when we scored in the away in Selhurst Park. Proper old school grounds that everyone's kind of on top of each other in that away end. So I'd go for that one.
It's a pretty different away end, actually. My daughter's first ever Southampton away game was at Crystal Palace this year. I took her to 2 games. I took her to Selhurst Park for the game there. And I also took her to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when we got relegated. So she's been from one end of the scale, one of the worst away ends, to one of the best away end. Brilliant memories, boys. I was thinking about it today, and I was thinking, do you know what, I want to pull something out from this season. In a terrible season, I was thinking, has there been an away day that I've actually really enjoyed this year? And there's only one that stood out for me, and it was the only win, and that was up at Portman Road against Ipswich Town. Yeah. It was brilliant in the away end, and we were pretty much relegated, but they really needed to beat us to give themselves a chance. They didn't. But the limbs there and the actual way in was brilliant, and the people of Ipswich were just lovely. It was just a real standout for me. Get involved in the comments box below. Give us your favourite away day ever of watching Southampton in the Premier League if you can. If not, just your favourite away day. We would love to hear it. Right, guys, we need to talk about the manager front. It comes around every week. It's hard to ignore it. It's hard not to go back to it and regurgitate some of what we've said before. But it does look like the front runner now is Will Still, according to bookies today, because the odds have massively been shortened on him. It looks like he's the second favourite now behind Danny Roll. I did a bit of research into him today to understand a bit more about his style. I think we all saw him on Monday Night Football a couple of weeks ago. But he's an interesting manager, very, very young, but defensively, Ben Parker, I'll start with you. He gets his sides defensively really sound.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know a lot about the guy. I think I've said it a few times. But what I'm hearing is, he's definitely a promising up and coming manager. I still wonder whether that is the right thing for us.
He's young, and he's very young.
At the end of the day, whoever you bring in, it's going to be a risk, isn't it? It doesn't matter who the manager is at the end of the day. There's always a risk there. It's the same with players. You can sign the best player in the world. Doesn't mean he's going to come to Southampton and perform. So it's an interesting one. I've because it's been going on for so long, I'm at the point now where I shouldn't say it's not that I don't care, but I just want whoever's going to be picked as manager to be in. Obviously, come the end of the season, we can hit the ground running straight away. The last time in the Championship, Martin was kind of hamstrung. He had some of the best players ripped out of the squad 4 weeks in. I mean, people say, should he have started with, James Ward-Prowse, Lavia, those type of players when we knew they were going to go? But at the end of the day, if they're in your squad, you're going to put them in, aren't you? So compared to Leicester, we look at Leicester, they got all their business done pre-season. They got the manager in. They were able to set up and have everyone on board right from the beginning, and that's what we must have next season. So I'm not really, whoever we have, I'll get behind, whoever they decide. At the end of the day, they've got to get this one right. They've made so many bad appointments. They brought Spores in to make this decision. So let's hope he does the right thing and brings the right person in.
Yeah, I was interested in reading about Still today. He was hired at the start of this season, so he's in June 24. Nobody knows the length of that deal because it's not really been disclosed. It's a multi-year deal, they call it. He was at Rems before and obviously left there by mutual consent. He had a good time there, done really well. He had a period of time where he took him on a run in his first season where they went 19 games unbeaten in all competitions, including 17 games unbeaten streak in Ligue 1. He did really well there. One of the youngest managers in Europe. He was born in Belgium, raised in England. His girlfriend is actually a Sky Sports reporter. I didn't realise that, Adam Boyce. Emma Saunders. She's been pretty unwell recently, I think, as well. But I didn't realise that was his girlfriend. So I was looking through and reading about him today. But really, really intrigued on him. Young manager, and they were saying the reason that he's been hired by Lens is because they wanted somebody to develop young talent. And they pretty much stripped him of all his players this year. They sold Kevin Danso, one of their big names. There's some really, really top players that they sold on, and they only spent about 14 million euros. So he's had his hands tied massively this year with them, but their owner or their chairman really wants to keep him. Whether there be some sort of get-out clause, Ben Towers, it remains to be seen. Do you see Saints paying compensation for a manager yet again?
I don't know is my honest answer. It depends how much it is. I know we were scared off by paying 5 mil that the Danny Roll deal would have needed. Personally, I do think it's going to be a young and up-and-coming manager. I remember when Spores' first interview, he said that obviously we want to, as a club, develop players, but at the same time, he was quite passionate about developing managers. So I do think it will be someone who's in there, just completed their first, maybe second job, and then coming to us. A bit like Pochettino. He only had one spell at Espanyol before we brought him in, but they saw enough in him to know he'd be going in the right direction. So I don't know. It's a weird one. The longer it goes on, possibly the less I'm interested in Danny Roll. Maybe because there's other people, other names coming about that could be of interest. Will Steele, like you say, did speak very well on Monday Night Football. And he's going to be desperate for a chance back in the UK, where he's obviously never managed, but it's the big time. And Southampton are a team that hopefully have a good chance of getting back there.
Yeah, it's attractive for any manager. Adam, today I'm talking about managers, as someone that's out of work at the moment. I don't know if you've seen it. People in the chat may have done. There's a good few of you tuning in now. But Sean Dyche was on the Stick to Football overlap today. Really, it was one of my favourite shows they've done in ages. I thought it was a brilliant interview with him. He was so open. He was so honest. Spoke about his time at Everton, but he also spoke about football and the styles, and some of the stuff he came out with I thought was absolutely brilliant. Adam, have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I watched bits on my lunch break actually earlier on.
Brilliant. Wasn't it? Brilliant.
Yeah. Straight talking.
Is he anyone that you'd take? Would you take him at Southampton? Someone with that experience. Would you take him?
Yeah, I don't think any experience, like any sort of that experience, is a bad thing in the Championship. You know, yes. Would he come in and just have us playing Route 1 football, grinding out results? Yeah, probably. But that's the key phase, grinding out results and winning and getting points. Ultimately, we all want to get back to the Premier League, right? And Sean Dyche would come in. He's proven in the Championship. He got Burnley up twice. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'd certainly take him. Is that the path that the club are going to go down? I don't think so. I don't think so. As the guys have said before, it seems like the young and up-and-coming manager mould is something that the club are very interested in. You know, I think they tried to go a bit more experienced, quote-unquote, with a Dyche, and we know how that went. You know, that fell flat. So I don't see it'll be happening. But, yeah, listen, if Sean Dyche came through the door, I'd be like, well, we'll be playing tough. We'll be taking no nonsense in the back as well, which is we need that. We need someone who's just going to come in and put people in their place if they need to be put in their place. So,
I don't see him coming, Dyche, but I thought the interview was good, and he really alluded to like the tippy-tap football. How football's become really boring, and I think he was kind of like pointing it towards the likes of Russell Martin and Vincent Kompany and the way they tried to play football and the way they tried to do it. And I'll tell you what, he did make a really good point: is why these teams get promoted and have to make a real better fist of it. Like we come up and we did exactly what Burnley did. Why didn't we learn from it? Ben Parker, you know, you look at it, and he alluded to that a lot about when's that become the right way to play football, and why would you constantly keep gifting teams chances around the edge of your box? It's bizarre.
I mean, for me, and I was actually speaking to Ben, funny enough, we were talking about that interview and Sean Dyche. And look, I know it's probably very, very unlikely that we'll go in for a manager like that. It's not our type of manager, it's not our style, but nevertheless, you know, I think a lot of fans look at Dyche and kind of tar him with that brush of boring, you know, defensive, and that's it. But for me, when you look at someone like Russell Martin, it's one style of play, it's one way, and that's it. I know people say, well, hang on, Dyche is similar. I think Dyche is very adaptable, and he'll go in and do what he needs to do with the players that he's got. And I think that's the difference between, say, the more experienced and the older managers compared to the newer ones coming through. If we do end up with a Will Steele, I'd certainly hope that he's got, you know, plan B and C and D. when we go into games, not like Russell Martin with his plan A and that's it. So, yeah, I would, and I'm sure a lot of people would not agree with me, but I would actually be very happy with a Dyche. But we know that isn't going to happen. It's highly unlikely. But yeah, I think if we do go and we get a Will Still, then we just, whoever it is, everyone's got to get behind them.
Yeah, Ben Towers, there's an interesting fact actually around Will Still that I read today. During his time at Rennes, they had to pay €25,000 per game because he didn't have his required UEFA Pro license at that time, and he was working on it and working towards it. But they had to pay a fair bit out to start with, but they really believed in him. A lot of people talk about that football manager is what led him into becoming a manager. I don't think that's solely it. I think he enjoyed playing that as a game. I don't think that's the reason he got hired, though.
We all enjoyed playing that, Martin.
Yeah. He was an analyst, wasn't he, at the start of his career?
He was an analyst, yeah.
He did like to play Championship Manager, Football Manager, whatever it was. But yeah, it was a pastime, I think. But yeah, that time when he was, I think it was €20,000 a game, but he was on that 19-game unbeaten run. So I'm sure they were happy to bring the checkbook out every time because it was paying for itself. So I'm the same as the guys. I think it'd be an interesting appointment. There's elements of it that is very much a risky appointment, but I've got confidence in Spurs. He's taking his time, which is frustrating for all of us, but it does show to me that he's looking at all options. He's making sure that this is done right, because I think the pressure will be on him if we don't start the season well. And Ben said it earlier, I want us to get the business done early. I mean, it'd be great by the end of July to have the team settled and be ready to go. I don't see it, but we'll have to Ben, hope and pray.
Question for you. So if the type of manager that Spurs wants is almost like a project manager, someone up and coming, does that put Frank Lampard out the window then? Because he's been at Chelsea, he's had a few jobs now. He's got that experience. He's not a young manager. I mean, he is young, but he's not a young manager. Do you think that puts him out the shop window?
I don't know. So as you said, he's 46, so he's not an old manager, but obviously he's had 4 or 5 jobs now. And when they've been in the Championship, they've been extremely successful. So is that his level? I don't know. I personally like him. I hope that the fact that Coventry haven't progressed to the Wembley final for the playoffs could be a good thing for us. There could be conversations happening. I like him. I like the way he goes about it. I like this Coventry team, the way they play. I think when he was at Chelsea, he did his best work when there was limited funds, where they had transfer embargo. He had youth players to play with. The expectation was lower. And dare I say, I know we're very passionate about our club, but Southampton's expectations will not be as high as Chelsea's. And we could be the match made in heaven for him. You don't know. But I hope he's in the mix because I think he's got a lot about him.
I think what I'm trying to say there is he's not maybe like a Will Still that Spurs could see that he could speak to, maybe mould him, so to speak. Whereas Lampard is going to be very set in his ways, isn't he? He knows his philosophy and how he likes to play. He's young on the younger side, but I suspect he wouldn't be too much open to having people change the way he does things.
I think if Frank Lampard has a very good spell with the team, and it could be Coventry, if he does manage to get them promoted possibly next year and potentially keeps them up, if that happens, then he could have another very big move on his hands. And again, we could be in that realm where we want a manager that is going to possibly go on to better things, but we might be able to happen for 2 or 3 seasons. I think that's where it will go.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Playoffs are nearly done now. We've got the finalists. Adam, did you watch the 2 playoff games, the Bristol City Sheffield United and the Coventry Sunderland? And your thoughts on the 2 teams in the final?
Yeah, I think it was the final that, on paper, I saw a comment earlier that nobody wanted this final. I think the majority of people wanted to see Bristol and Coventry in the final because those are 2 teams I don't think Bristol City have ever been in the Premier League before. Coventry, once upon a time, fallen giant, from a long, long time ago. And it would have been fun for one of those two teams to be up there. But really, it's third versus fourth again for the second straight year. I think watching Sheffield United play, they're such a frustrating team because they're just too good for the Championship. But then they get to the Premier League and they, for some reason or another, it just doesn't work out. They need their own league in between the Championship and the Premier League. But then Sunderland done very well to nick it last night. I wasn't crazy on the home atmosphere, I've got to be honest. I was expecting a little bit more, I think, from the Stadium of Light. Obviously, it was crazy when they scored in the last minute, but any club should celebrate like that. But I'm looking forward to it. I hope it'll be a good game. I hope it's not just another 1-0 or a 2-1. I'd like to see like a 2-goal deficit playoff final.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want, right? Just to see some goals. And I think for us as Southampton, if Sheffield United aren't in the league next year, that's only a better thing for us at the end of the day,
I think that's a really good point, actually. Really good point.
I don't know if anyone knows. I've not really paid attention to it, but Diaz obviously is on loan at Sheffield United, isn't he? How has he done out there? I did read something that he wasn't going to be available for the final. But has he been playing?
No, he wasn't in the squad, but and I don't know why actually, because surely their season hasn't finished, so he should still be eligible.
Yeah, it's interesting because I would imagine he would be able to. But he's paid. I'm just having a quick look now of what he's done.
So he's likely to be back with us, isn't he, next season? By the sound.
Yeah, he's played 17 games. He scored 4 goals. He's had 3 assists, 4 yellow cards. What a dreadful signing he's been. I just don't see him being. Hopefully, we get rid of him and move him on. Ben Towers, thoughts on Coventry? You've enjoyed watching Coventry and the way they've played football this year. They were really unlucky, weren't they, in the game? Because I thought they played really well, Coventry.
I think Boycey mentioned there about the atmosphere in the stadium. I think it was low because Coventry dominated that game. They literally, it was wave after wave. They like to cross the ball, which is, they've got their strengths that way. They've got a very tall striker in Hadji right up front, so they're going to do that. But they look really good. And I think them having the success they've had in the second half of the season, from 17th up to 5th when Lampard came in, it's probably going to bring the limelight on a few of their players, and I think they'll struggle to keep hold of them. I know there's one in particular that I would love to see come to St Mary's. They signed him for about £3.5 million. That's Jack Radoni.
Great player, yeah, he's really good.
Class player, plays that number 10 spot. He's creative, but he gets a goal as well. And, I could see someone hopefully pinching him, possibly us, for could be 7 or 8, possibly 10 million quid. I think that would be great business.
Yeah, would be great business. And actually talking about players, there's something I wanted to ask all of you, and I wanted people to get involved in the comments box below. I was asked this question by somebody yesterday, and I also saw it on X a while ago. It was by the Saints Centre. We recently asked to name our ideal top signing for this summer. Well, they said 3, but I'd be interested to see who you guys would love to see is your standout top signing you'd like to see us make, or maybe 2 players you'd like to see come in. Ben, you've already touched upon on one name. Is there anyone else you've seen that you love that you think, oh yes, we should go and get that player?
Do you know what? I think it would be a Championship player, someone who's been performing well, possibly. But I'll be honest, I haven't seen a lot of Championship football until the latter part of the season, because I think it's been quite an interesting sort of finish up with the playoffs and everything.
There is a certain name that was playing on the other side with called Bellingham. You may have heard of.
Yeah, he's a good player, isn't he?
Bayern Munich or Borussia Dortmund interested in him?
He would be somebody that I'd take.
Yeah. He's a great player, really, really good player. I was thinking about players. Yeah, one of my best pals, massive Southampton fan, and I was talking about players because I was asked this question, and I didn't really think about him till he mentioned him. He said about Josh Sargent at Norwich and the goals that he scores. Yes. Proper player that finds the back of the net. Saint Centre spoke about Tom Fellows, the winger. I think he was at West Brom. I don't know if he's still there. And I still think that I was going to ask all of you in a minute about the goalkeeping situation. But Boycey, just quickly, any players you'd like to see us sign? Anybody that you've seen in the Championship think we got to go and get, Saints?
You took it right out of my mouth. Tom Fellows, actually. He was. I was looking at him earlier on. Actually, he's been playing predominantly down that right-hand side for West Brom this season. I think he's got something crazy like 14, 15 assists, which is, I think it might be joint top or at least like top 2. I think it looks absurd. And to me, that right wing position is very open next season because, very good chance Tyler Dibling's not going to be here next season. There's no Sam Ammo to come back, which I'm gutted about. Adam Arms, is he going to be moved back into that middle striker role? I don't know. It's very open for me. And Tom Fellows down that right-hand side, I could definitely get behind that. I also think he would not be that much.
I think there was a lot of Prem interest in him, though. I think I heard, I can't remember exactly what team it was, but it's not gone unnoticed that he's done really, really well.
15 assists is crazy. Like,
that is. They didn't make the playoffs. So, I think, where did they finish in the end, West Brom? About 9th or 10th?
I think. Yeah.
That's impressive for where they've come.
We've been linked with that Fellows previously as well, haven't we?
Yeah.
We have. But then I think as Southampton, we always get linked with everyone.
But we need to actually go and make some of these signings happen.
Yeah, there are a handful of the guys from Sunderland who I'd take, like Dan Neal.
He's been talking about the goalkeeper, Patterson, is it?
Yeah.
Patterson. So it'd be interesting to see. Goalkeeper is a key one because I think, I don't know how long Alex McCarthy's got left on his contract, but I think he's got a very lucrative deal. Yeah, see.
And he's not played a lot of football, has he?
5 years of age for next year, and Bazunu can't seem to stay fit, and he hasn't had the best of seasons at Standard Liège. So, we're going to have to invest, I'm sure. I did see Angus Gunn got released from Norwich, but I'm sure we won't go there.
Angus, sorry I disappeared there. My internet died in the house. I don't know why. It literally kicked me off. So thank you for holding the fort, lads, by the way.
That's right, we tried.
Angus Gunn, he was. He never played for Saints after that 9-0 defeat against Leicester, did he, Ben?
I don't think we bring him back, as I say. But I think we're just desperate for some good, positive news. And, anyone coming in, whether it be managers, players, it just gives everyone a lift. And, we just want to get things moving.
The 2 games remain. Everton this weekend, like we said, last away game in the Premier League this season. Need to get some score predictions from the 3 of you. I'll give mine at the end. I'll start with you, Adam Boyce, top right-hand corner.
I'll go for 1-1.
Go with the draw. Another point for the Saints on the road. Ben Parker, Saints going to cause an upset at Goodison Park on their last ever men's game?
We've done it before, but we just, the pressure's off now. You'd like to hope that we might play a bit more freely, but I just think the way the manager, the results he's got, he's going to set up probably very similar, try and get a point if you can. But I suspect because of the emotions probably running high, I think I'll put Everton down for a squeaky 1-0 win.
What about you, Ben Towers? What's your thoughts?
I'm just hoping that we can show the same resilience that we did against Man City. And I'm also hoping that possibly Everton play the occasion and not the game. And therefore we might have an opportunity. But I'm going to say we're going to be quite strong at the back. I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but I can see us potentially getting something off of maybe a set piece 1-0.
Going to go with 1-1.
Hawk Ninja said 5-5 in the comments.
Get your bets on.
I joined one of the Toffee channels yesterday. I think it was I can't remember which one it was now, but Toffee Blues. I went on Toffee Blues yesterday on their podcast, and I asked him about Charlie Alcarez, how he's done, and he said he's been absolutely brilliant. They've got no obligation to buy him, but they're all hoping they sign him. He's a fan's favourite already. They reckon his work rate, his energy, the way he's brought into the city and the club, they reckon he's been unbelievable.
I have to interject there because I always raved about the player. And Ben, I'm going to drop you in it, Ben. Like, you didn't like him, did you? But for me...
I don't think we ever played to his strengths. But then when you look at it, Mateus Fernandes, maybe not a direct replacement, but he was signed...
Don't get me wrong.
In mind, and I still prefer Fernandes.
Oh, Fernandes is absolute quality, of course. But for me... whether we would have brought Fernandes in if we hadn't sold him, probably not. But I was gutted. Remember, I used to give you loads of grief over it.
Yeah, they love him. They love him, Adam. Fernandes or Alcarez for you, Adam?
Oh, you can't do that. That's not fair.
So, come on, Martin. It's like choosing between.
Would you have them both in the side? Could you put them in the same side? I think you could.
Absolutely.
I thought about this last week. I thought you could have them both in the same side quite comfortably.
100%.
Fernandes is probably a harder worker, but he doesn't get enough goals. They're talking about like big price tags around Fernandes. Like Saints will put anyone off that wants to buy him because they're going to put they paid 15 for him. I reckon we'll want 30 upwards for him, which I don't think they get.
Easy.
I don't think we'll get
40 upwards.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll get. He's at that stage where another club would take that massive punt on him, but he has been linked with a few clubs, and it'd be good to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah,
Adam, I'll start with you. Nottingham Forest, very interested in Newcastle. Two sides that both work really, really hard off the ball. Do you see him being a good fit for either of those? And would they pay 35 million for him? That's a big question.
I think he'd be a great fit for both of those teams, really, especially if Forest potentially are losing Gibbs White. Lots of teams are really interested in him. I think Fernandes is. How old is Fernandes? 20, 21?
21.
22 or something.
So,
He's young.
Scraping the surface, and he's already such a brilliant player. I mean, what he's doing in this Southampton team, the way he reads the game is just unbelievable. And you put him in a Nottingham Forest team who, as you say, hard working off the ball, getting that ball up the pitch as quickly as possible. Like Fernandes, to me, deserves way, way, way many more goal involvements than he has this season because the way he's able to, certainly assists-wise, and you put him feeding them balls to Chris Wood or Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, whoever it is. I mean, he's getting assists for days, and it's the same for Newcastle. You play him behind Alexander Isak, one of the best number 9s in the league. He's just going to feed him, and he's only going to get better. So, in terms of who would pay that money, I could see Newcastle paying it because they have the money. I feel like Forest would be a bit more shrewd with their business. I don't think we would get more than 35 million for Fernandes. It'd be great if we did, but it doesn't matter.
I think that's a snip, though, in the Premiership. I think 40 million, I mean, it's not even that shocking, is it? It's kind of the going rate. I think we could easily get that for him, if not more.
John else in the chat says Villa.
A long contract, and I think, I think there'll be lots of clubs queuing up. But I'm sure conversations have already taken place. But I think it's probably quite an unfair question of Martin to ask which one you'd have. It's almost like saying which one of your kids is your favourite. But
both top lads. John Moss says in the chat he'll end up at Villa. I think Fernandes will be an £18 million midfielder in 2 years, says St. Andy. Nick's in the chat. He says Morgan Gibbs-White will be gone too. I expect that will probably be 100 million. Gibbs-White's a good player, one of my favourite midfielders I've seen actually in the flesh this year. I've watched him twice. He's brilliant. Such a good player. I've enjoyed watching Forest at times this year. It's been a brilliant fans forum. I've really enjoyed it. It's been pretty much an hour. I hope everyone that's tuned in has enjoyed our conversation, our chat. It's like a mates going down a pub having a chat about Saints and football, and we just brought it to my channel. So it's been an absolute pleasure. We've got 2 more of these to come again next week, next Thursday, 8:00 again, and again after the Arsenal game as well. So, and once the season restarts again, we'll get these rolling, and we may do a couple in between the season ending and the season starting. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Adam Boyce, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Martin.
Adam, Ben Parker, you've been an absolute legend as always. Thank you very much indeed. And Ben Towers, thank you for your time this evening, mate. You've been superb.
Pleasure.
Everyone saying thank you in the chat as well. We'll be back with another Fans Forum 8 p.m. next Thursday. Make sure you do follow the channel and hit that bell on the homepage, and you'll be notified of when I go live once again.